What is going on, everybody? So I am back today to talk about a film that was released this year that I actually missed it when it was in the theater, but now it's available to rent online, and I was really looking forward to watching this because it was directed by Zach Braff, who's someone I've always really liked. I was a huge fan of the show Scrubs. I love his debut film Garden State. He's worked on some projects throughout his career that I've really enjoyed, and I always enjoy watching the material that he works on. And I was also really looking forward to checking this film out because I love Florence Pugh. She's one of my favorite actresses working right now. I feel like no matter what the project is, even if the project isn't perfect, that her performance always elevates it to another level in a way that it might not be if there was another actress involved. And so with that culmination of people and the rest of the cast in the movie, I was really excited to check this one out. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is A Good Person. A Good Person is directed by Zach Braff. Allison's life falls apart following her involvement in a fatal accident. The unlikely relationship she forms with her would-be father-in-law helps her live a life worth living. So I didn't really know what to expect with this movie when it was released. I saw the reviews were kind of mixed. People seemed to enjoy it or either really hate it, and there was some people that really loved it. So when something's that polarizing, I never really know what to expect, and I really liked this movie a lot. I think that it is really well made. There's a lot of things to really praise about the film. There's also a couple of things that you can critique on it that I feel like it could be polished a little bit more, but I'll get into that when I'm talking about it. So obviously, as the plot description states, we're introduced to Florence Pugh's character. She's engaged to this man. They're getting ready to be married. She ends up going wedding dress shopping with her sister-in-law and her sister-in-law's husband, and they're in the car together. We see she's like trying to get them into downtown. She looks at her phone and to look at the directions, and she gets in a car accident where she is really horribly injured. She gets this terrible head injury and put in the hospital, and her sister-in-law and her sister-in-law's husband are killed, and they have a young daughter who is at that moment being dropped off at school by Morgan Freeman's character, who is her fiance's father. And so you have this really complex character dynamics with all of these characters that are involved in this relationship based on this wedding that's happening and how they all interact. And this happens. Florence Pugh's character kind of wakes up in the hospital. She's unaware as to what happens, and it jumps forward a year later, which is what majority of the movie is. It's a year later into the future. Florence Pugh's character has become addicted to opioids because she was prescribed oxy to help her with the pain, but she's essentially using it to try and forget and numb herself to the fact that she was involved in this accident. And in the back of her head, you can tell she feels that she's caused it. She tries to act like she hasn't. And then at the same time, she's broken off her relationship with her fiance, and by happenstance she ends up running into Morgan Freeman's character, and the two of them form this really unlikely relationship where all of these players in this family sort of come into contact after this horrible tragedy has occurred. And really, that's what the movie is at its surface level, is really complex character dynamics, and Zach Braff exploring the fact that life isn't this pretty polished picture for most people. Terrible things happen to people, and you have to find a way to overcome it and move forward, and how we should never really judge people solely based on the surface level idea that we get of them. You know, this movie tackles drug addiction, substance abuse, alcoholism, abuse in families. There's a lot of this real touchy subject matter that the film covers that a lot of people really have to deal with. And a lot of times when someone is an alcoholic or someone becomes addicted to prescription pills or any of those things, we as a society very quickly are able to kind of pass judgment on those people and say, well, if you do prescription drugs, you're an awful person, or if you become an alcoholic, you're a terrible human being, without understanding what drove those people to get to that point and why these things have happened. And I think that that is where the true beauty in this film lies, is that so many people have been through so many horrible things in their lives, and we all turn to different things to cope, and we all sometimes make terrible decisions to go through those things to try to provide us some form of comfort or relief in moments that it's not easy to do on our own. And sometimes it takes the right person at the right time in your life to help you understand how to overcome those circumstances without turning to something that can toxically affect other people. And I think that Braff does a fantastic job delicately handling all of that in a way that comes across as genuinely authentic. There are a few moments in the film that feel a little sappy and very like Hallmark-esque, which I feel like probably is hard to do when you're doing this kind of subject matter at moments, but most of it feels very authentic in a way that I was really impressed with. There was a few moments that I kind of pulled out where I was like, okay, this scene doesn't necessarily work as well as some of the other scenes in the movie, but it never pulled me out completely to where I wasn't invested in these characters. And I think a lot of that is completely and totally determinant on these performances, which I've said it before and I'll say it again. Florence Pugh is one of the most exciting young actresses working today. Everything I've seen her in from the beginning of her career to now, she consistently impresses me. Playing a person who has gone through a very immense trauma and also became addicted to opioids, she just, in her bodily movements and the way she stares off screen and the way she interacts with people, she feels like this character. She embodies this character's struggle in a way that is so impressive, and I imagine very difficult to execute perfectly, and she really does in a way that just impressed the hell out of me. Morgan Freeman gives one of the most committed performances that he's given in years. He plays not the most likable character in this film, which is fantastic because Morgan Freeman is someone that's very easy to cast as a very lovable, charming person because he is a charming actor. He does a really great job of sort of drawing you into any material that he's in. And this movie, because his character has such a broken past and he himself is a very broken human being, he does a great job into playing into that very split nature in his life of trying to be a good person who has done some really awful stuff in his life. And I think the two of them together are just absolutely phenomenal in every scene that they're in. I was thrilled to see Molly Shannon in this because I love Molly Shannon and I don't think that she gets casted in enough, and she was fantastic in this, especially a movie that leans more in a dramatic tone. She has some funny moments that I thought worked really well with her sort of off-brand deadpan comedy that she does. I thought that it worked and added a little bit of levity into moments that needed it, but in the really heated dramatic moments, I thought that she did a really fantastic job. Zoe Lister-Jones, who I absolutely love, was in this movie as well, and she did a phenomenal job as one of the women who works at the AANA meetings, who becomes Florence Pugh's sponsor in the film. And just every side character that shows up in this just does a fantastic job at playing into this vision, and I think it's executed really well. And like I said, there are some moments that might come off as a little sappy. There's a scene early on where she meets up with Alex Wolff's character. The two of them are like talking about their past in high school, and it's kind of her trying to get drugs from him, and that one comes off as a little after school specially to me, just in the way that the dialogue is delivered. There's a scene towards the end of the movie that I don't want to talk about too much that kind of feels the same, that I don't think everything was executed in the best way that it possibly could have been. But aside from those couple of moments, I think that this is a really powerful movie that impacted me quite a bit, and I felt a whole lot when I watched it. And I think that Zach Braff, like I said, does a really beautiful job at exploring that life isn't pretty and that people go through a lot of really horrible things, and that despite that and despite whatever they're going through in that moment, we shouldn't just judge people at face value. So I would 100% recommend you go check out this movie. So have you seen A Good Person? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fantastically well put together. I thought Zach Braff did an amazing job directing this one, and I thought that all of the performances were great. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot, lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.